back to the Accommodation Show. I have a wonderful guest on the show this week. She has a host of experience in the accommodation space, in the travel space. She's released a new book, which is Hospitality from Within. Welcome to the show, Sarah Dandashy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's exciting to be here.
My absolute pleasure. I'm excited for today. We've been trying to hook up for a little while to get you onto the show and to start recording this episode. So really pumped for our conversation. Look, what I always love to do with our guests is first to let them introduce themselves, because you're going to say it better than I would anyway. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your experience is and how you fit into the accommodation stroke travel space.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that might not know me, my name is Sarah Dandashy, and I've worked in the luxury hospitality space for over 18 years, 15 of those years as a concierge. Actually, if you ever have been to a higher end property that has a concierge that maybe has gold keys on their lapels, it is an international organization called Les Clés d'Or, the Gold Keys in French. I was actually part of that organization and won Best Young Concierge in the World from them several years ago. So my background has been very much heavily in the luxury hospitality space, and then certainly on, as I like to call it, the front lines of travel, because on a daily basis I was interacting with guests, knowing what people were looking for, what the trends were that were happening, literally as they were happening, as far as consumer trends as well. And then over the years, I have built my brand called Ask a Concierge, where I get to cover travel destinations really all around the world, and also cover travel trends on TV as well too. So it's been exciting. I was born in Pennsylvania but lived all over. I lived in Saudi Arabia, London, Atlanta, Georgia, went to college in DC, lived in New York a bit, and now I'm in Los Angeles. So I kind of like to say that travel's in my DNA, because I'm half Lebanese, so that kind of just meant that I was already going to be traveling pretty much.
Yeah.
And I've continued to do that, and certainly a career in hospitality has blended nicely with that background. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, oh, look, what a great story. And what I love about the guests that I get to interview is that everyone's got a different angle on the industry. And I like that you're one of the workhorses of the industry, one of the people that really has to be on the ground floor and understands the guests and sort of a lot of the things that we talk about sort of hypothetically. You're the actual living, breathing person that actually has to deal with it on a daily basis. So when I talk about
And
guest
implement the
experience,
changes.
you have to
Exactly.
do it, right? A lot of what we do as managers, we go, oh yeah, we should do that, and then we get someone to help us with it, and we might
Exactly.
drive the direction, but you're the one who.
Theoretically, this is a good idea, and then in actuality, and hopefully it is, sometimes it is.
Well, that's right, and
Yeah.
that's where you come in, especially now with all your experience, where you can go, hey, that's not going to work, or that's not on trend, or the guests don't really have that expectation of an experience that you've set for them. So let's start off, because the book I've been looking seeing you post all over the place about the book, and I'd love to know a little bit more about it and what the thinking was behind it.
Absolutely. So I get so excited just kind of talking about this book, Hospitality from Within. So exciting because it launched on Amazon earlier this year. We got Amazon bestseller in the service industry as well as hospitality, travel, and tourism. So in those categories, so amazing to just
Congratulations.
have. Yeah, thank you. To just like have everybody, around and not only get excited about it, but when they read it, they end up being like, "Oh, I want to get a copy for somebody else." And that's so heartwarming because for me, when I was kind of looking back and over the time of the pandemic, I was already transitioning. Prior to 2020, I was already transitioning out of sort of being in a hotel I traveled to 35 destinations in a year that I was still working full time at a hotel. So you could just imagine for those that actually know what that's like. I mean, it's talking about getting off a plane, dropping off a bag, slapping on a name tag and being like, sure, happy to tell you the best ways to get to the Hollywood sign as your like eyes are crossed because you're like, oh my gosh, I just flew back from Asia. Okay. So, that's kind of like how things were going with my career. And then with the pandemic, I took that as a time to be like, okay, well, the training wheels need to come off. You're like, what?
Yeah.
This is not going to end anytime soon. Let's go ahead and do that. And so I, since then have just continued the work that I was doing prior to that. And what's been really sort of interesting is that for those that know me and know my schedule, I really like to stay strong with those 18-hour days. And they're like, there's no way you could ever write a book when you're working so much. But finally, in the pandemic, as others, had this moment to sort of reflect and was able to put together and kind of gather my thoughts on the industry and look back and see different stories and lessons that I learned over the years. And not only necessarily from myself and my experiences, but maybe from those that were mentors to me in the industry. And so that's kind of what shaped hospitality from within. And it's all about delivering that helpful, genuine service. And what is that? And what does that mean? And talking about things like the tipping point between 4 and 5 star service. Like, what is that?
Hmm.
And then also including stories from concierge from around the world. Because for me, and I'm sure that many of your viewers on here will agree, hospitality is universal. And it doesn't matter what language you speak. You might not even be speaking the same language as the people that you might be staying in their property or their home or whatever that is, but you can still feel it.
Hmm.
So there is this universal aspect of hospitality that was really wonderful to be able to pull together from other colleagues because, as we all know, it's not just one person's story. It's not just the way one person delivers service. It's how we
Sure.
all work together to create an entire experience for a guest, be it on a smaller scale, in a B&B, or be it on a larger scale in, a 2,000 person room or a
Yeah.
hotel.
Hotel.
So
Yeah.
whatever that might be, it's a wonderful process. So that's kind of where hospitality from within came from, and a lot of good lessons and nuggets in there. And it's been exciting to see people take something away from it.
Yeah, and look, that's such an exciting journey for you to take, right? Is that you've got all this experience, and then you have to put it onto paper and sort of
Hmm.
give with such a breadth of experience, what do you actually put into the book? What are those stories going to
Yeah.
be, which are going to be the most relevant, and kind of
Yes.
really thinking about your audience and your avatar. Can you tell me about that actually? Like, who would be and by the way, I love the fact that you said that the book is good enough for someone to give it to somebody else or buy it again and then give it to someone else. That's a real measure of success. That's when you know you've done well. People aren't just buying it because, oh, yeah, it sounds good, but actually to go through the process of reading it and think, oh, this is great, and then passing it on or buying another one for someone else. I just love that, by the way. So it's a congratulations, right? It's the best referral ever, or the best way to sell a book. Now, in terms of people that should be reading this book and who it's targeted at, what was, I guess, two things. Who is it targeted at, and what was your process to get there?
Yeah, so the first part, as far as like who it's targeted, honestly, it's really anybody that has a customer facing business or customer business. And it can be anybody that maybe they work in finance and they have customers, or obviously the ones that will resonate the most will be ones that work in hospitality. Certainly
Hmm.
they'll recognize stories that might be similar to stories or experiences that they've had. So on one hand, it's for experienced professionals that might be burnt out and are just looking for a breath of fresh air or a way to sort of re-look at things, to just be re-inspired, because as we know, those of us in hospitality, it is emotional labor, and that's something that shouldn't be just glazed over. That's something that we have to take the time to kind of to check in with ourselves so that we can continue to deliver on high standards and high levels. But the other side, as we are seeing this shift in hospitality, and I'm sure we might talk about it later, with a lot of people that are
Hmm.
new to the industry, some of them are just looking for some guidance on, okay, like, where do I
What do
even
I do?
begin to start thinking like a hospitality person? Because
Yeah.
really, you are only as good as how you're trained. And there's just not equal training all the way around, just maybe just due to lack of resources, or depending on what a property might be, how they might be offering their training. So all of that's kind of up in the air. But this has the goal was also to kind of be helpful for those that are new to the industry. And then I can't tell you the number of people that don't work in the industry at all that are like, I've had writers say, oh my gosh, I've learned so many nuggets from this that I'm going to use for my clients. and they don't even see their clients necessarily. They might be interacting with people just
Yeah.
via email, but they were able to take things away from that. So, for me, it was more of like, okay, what resonated most with me? And this kind of comes back to the process. Is like what I've found generally, and I've been creating content for people for quite some time, is the most authentic way to sort of create content and share it, be it a book or be it social media, is what resonates with you. Because most likely, if something resonates with you, it's going to resonate with other people. So I took a moment and I definitely outlined the key lessons and things that maybe made a difference that I noticed in my career, whether it was a conversation that happened or a response that was given or just something that I watched in a colleague doing. And then put those down, and then I kind of reverse engineered it and created an outline from that. So that's kind of how it came about. And then I also have been interviewing people along the time of while I was writing it. So I'm also very driven by quotes and nuggets. I know that we all have a very, very busy schedule. For me to get me to sit down and to read something for more than 20 minutes is like almost impossible. Like I have to be
Sure.
totally in the mood for it. And I know, again, if that's kind of how I am, many other people are that way. So I'm like, how I want to create something, and it wasn't the intention, but this is how it worked out, that people can kind of like open it up to a page, take a nugget and move on, or something that they can read all in one go, depending on how they like to consume that information. So it's been a real pleasure to be able to like add different quotes from CEOs and execs in the industry that I happen to meet along my journey, and then these other stories and little bites. So really just all depends on how much you're able to take in. You can kind of pick and choose as you please. So it's been a fun journey putting it together, and definitely a long one too, but worthwhile.
Yeah. Oh well, look, a long one because it took you so many years to get to the stage where you are right now, right? That's it's not just
Oh,
about the writing the
yes.
book; it's the
Yes,
experience, right?
exactly.
And that's what I think that a lot of people should really learn from is that you can accelerate your business and your path if you learn from people that have done it before, rather than trying to figure it out yourself.
Totally.
And generally, like if I'm sure that if someone was to try to get you in for a consultation and cost them thousands of dollars, whilst they can pick up a book which will be under $50 or 20 or 30, whatever the price
Yeah.
is, and really pick up huge tidbits and nuggets, and then they can figure out whether they need to go further with you or to learn more. One thing that you were talking about within that, and I think you kind of revealed the title a bit, the hospitality from within. I take it that
Yes.
what you're talking about is that when we are hospitable, it's all about how we approach hospitality, how we want to be, and being authentic to our guests, rather than it being company mandated. This is how you're meant to do. This is what hospitality is, and then that person isn't authentic. And I think that's the way that you come across is that you're genuinely you. This is Sarah. You take it or leave it. I'm going to lean into the qualities that I have being Sarah, and then give you that, and you should appreciate that, and you should like that. Am I going down the right path?
Absolutely. And it's two pronged. So part of that is that like that self-driven hospitality, and because that's where the magic stuff happens. It doesn't happen when it's like, oh, on this checklist I'm supposed to say the guest name 3 times in an interaction. Okay? For those
Yeah.
that have worked in hotels, you might know what I might be referencing, because that was a industry-wide standard for quite some time at an elevated level. And I mean, I remember myself having an interaction and being like, how many times did I say their name? Oh, I think, yes, Mr. Smith. Mhm, absolutely, Mr. Because, oh my gosh, they could be testing me and they're sitting there counting how many times I said their name. How inauthentic is that? So,
Sure.
taking that aside and being like, okay, well, how can we really release the reins a little bit? Obviously, we want to keep in mind that we are in a professional atmosphere, depending on the type of hotel or property or establishment that you might be in. That reflects in how professional or how relaxed you might be. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about the marble floors or the curtains or whatever. It's how you're connecting with the individuals, and it all just comes from within. And then the other side is also for businesses to look at themselves and to remember that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the 4 walls are that are around you. You can have fantastic hospitality anywhere. You could get it at the gas station, okay?
Yeah.
And it's all about how you treat your employees and empower them, and how they in turn then convey that hospitality to your guests and basically kind of keep it going. So that's the
Can
other
we
side of things.
can we talk about that really quickly? And I
Yeah.
think that I'd love to hear your thoughts on leadership. And whenever I'm out at a restaurant, whenever I'm in a hotel, and the experience isn't, well, it's actually both ways. When the experience is fantastic, or
Hmm.
when the experience is poor in my eyes, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Generally, I look and I see that it's not one staff member; it's the whole team of them acting in the same kind of way. So they're all
Hmm.
like, either like, delivering this kind of experience which is fantastic, or there's just something wrong. And you're like, why are they all so stressed? Why are they all interacting? Why are they all short with me? Why don't they really care? And 9% of the time, in my opinion, it's because of that leadership, of that structure, of someone,
100%.
it's coming from the top down, and just someone just not really leading in a way that I think can create the space for people to be who they are, and that sort of thing. What is your opinion on that leadership? And I'm sure that through your experience, you've seen all sorts of different leaders do it in different ways. And then let's say, beyond that, the second part of the question, sorry to make it a terribly long question,
No, I love it.
is how do we steer that leader into getting it right, if everything I've said is on point?
Yeah, first of all, what you said is exactly on point. It all starts from the leadership and how they set the tone for their employees. Again, it's like, how they set the tone, how they inspire them, how they give them a sense of, I said this before, but that sense of ownership. If an employee feels empowered to either do something on behalf of the company, whether it's like send out a complimentary drink or do this, it gives them the sense of authority, and then they feel like they represent the company or the business as well too. And so they're approaching things in a very different way. So if you empower them, they then in turn feel the sense of ownership, and then that's reflected through, and that's really simplifying it. Obviously there are a lot of different nuances to it, but I think that that's the first way to sort of kind of tackle that. And by the way, I was writing down a note while you were asking me this question, because it reminded me of a thought I had earlier that I want to dive into a little bit more, but we'll start it here. Is
Sure.
I think, and I'm sure many will agree with this, is that I can tell you in all the properties I worked at, there was all too often this huge separation between front of house and back of house, and whether it was lack of experience or this or whatever. And what I think, and if we look at upper management or leadership sort of being back of a house, because at the end of the day, are they necessarily having all of those engagements on a day-to-day basis?
Yep.
Most of the time they're not. And what I would urge is for those that might be in the back of the house, be it a leadership role, be it in finance, be it in something completely separate, that they take a moment every so often and stand there at the front desk or stand there but at the front door and have a moment, and maybe it's only 5 minutes. Maybe it's 15, whatever, to remind it, depending on
Little steps, baby steps.
little steps, because I can just envision somebody coming out and being like, oh gosh, they forget, and but I say this because it's that reminder of what it takes. Because we've all have our different paths in our careers, and we might be good at what we're doing, and you can be great at what you're doing in leadership, but I think it's really important to remind yourself what it's like to be there greeting somebody on a regular basis, what it's like to be there answering those questions, or helping resolve like a crazy charge to a credit card that somebody's insisting, they had nothing to do with, whatever that might be. So I think this, again, with that leadership, if it's like taking that moment to not just walk around and see, oh, look, everybody's doing what they should be doing, that's lovely too. Yes, you have a presence, but to like, actually be there and just have a moment. Maybe they go to the restaurant and they help walk somebody to a table and they have a conversation. So taking it a little bit step further than the traditional ways. Obviously, they can't necessarily do that for a whole lot of time because they have other duties, but something to just remind themselves what their staff is experiencing on a regular basis. And I think it reignites and re-inspires them. And then I think that sort of like brings everything full circle a little bit more, just because it takes the separation of back in house and front of house and makes them more interconnected.
Yeah, I think that there's also an opportunity there because sometimes I think if someone's listening, what we like to do is we like to default to go, oh yeah, I already do that. Yeah, I do that once a month. I do
Yeah.
whatever. But it's about doing things a bit differently. So actually, maybe leaning into the team and saying, hey, where could I add some value? Where could I learn? Where are you having those
Mhm.
struggles and those pains, and get sort of a bit more stuck in to really see where those issues lie. So I love it. It's great advice to get out there and get on the floor. And I can think of a bunch of different industries, not just accommodation. So,
Yeah, of
like the
course.
airlines, right? The airlines are in so
Definitely.
much trouble right now, and you just wish that some of those CEOs would actually just come out and have a look and just go, "Oh
I know.
God,
I
this is where
know.
I'm at, and this is the
I
impact
know.
of it." Get into with the luggage handlers, right? So they can see what's going on. But
Oh,
that's
completely.
yeah, that kind of stuff. So, and that goes across industry, hospitals,
Yeah.
and everything else. So fascinating. Now, look, I'm going to move away from that a tiny bit because
Yeah.
I have so many questions that I think that you could really help our audience out with. And one of them is around going from 4 stars to 5 stars, or sort of
Hmm.
elevating that experience. And a lot of people will feel paralyzed by their circumstance.
Hmm.
And by that I mean, I've only got this, or my rooms don't have this. I
Hmm.
hear it all the time, especially when we do photography. Then they go, "Oh, we can't take nice photos because our place caters to a budget market." I'm like, "Yeah, but you can still over deliver." So
Yes.
when we talk about elevating that level of service and
Hmm.
providing a 5 star service, first question is, can you always deliver a 5 star service? And the second part of that would be, how do we keep track of what kind of level of service we're delivering in general?
Yeah, so many great questions. So I mean, a couple things. I like to look at a business kind of broken down into two parts. You have the product, which is basically everything around you, the tangibles, and then you have the service component. And the service component, what's so great about it is that it doesn't need any tools other than us showing up. And that's what's so great because, again, when it comes to service and hospitality, it is how you are making people feel. So, this notion of 5 star service, and this might be a hint or a drop for maybe the next book down the line. It's this notion of having this 5 star mindset. Okay, and so what is that? Again, it doesn't matter, the thread count. It doesn't matter, you could be in what would be equivalent to a quote unquote 3 star property. But again, if it's this thoughtful service and it's there and whether it's you or whether it's your employees are very present and genuinely engaging and doing what they can within the parameters of what makes sense, you can deliver 5 star service in any environment. So, it's again, it's kind of about how you're making them feel, whether it's making them feel heard, or appreciated, or they're a return guest and you remember a little thing that they like, be it that they like to keep 2 water bottles on their nightstand and they sleep on the right side of the bed. That's that doesn't take much, but that sends a big message. So again, these are like little things that can be done that don't cost a lot, or cost anything more than how the normal operations of business. But again, it's how they're being made to feel. It could even be a note card, as far as like a special like welcome back, whatever that might be. So that's why for me that the notion of of hospitality and delivering that service is like, all we have to do is just be ourselves and be very present and just be genuine and thoughtful. And it's amazing how you're going to be able to connect with guests from whatever their background is. Now, wait, you asked me a couple questions, so I wanted to remember the second part of it.
The other part of it was around how do we know that we've given 5-star experience, or did we give 4-star, or was it 5-star, or was it 3 stars? How do we know where we're at and where I know that it's obviously subjective, but if anyone's going to know the answer to this question, Sarah, it's going to be you.
It is going to be me or a Forbes trainer. I don't know, which I am not. No, but you know, at the end of the day, that is a good question. It is a bit subjective. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's I guess it's like how far you take it with the guest, and whether I would almost say, and this is kind of interesting, is like whether I don't know if you would sit there and get caught up in being like, well, that was only 4-star service that I delivered. I could have offered a mint. I don't know. I'm just making that up. You know, that so that is hard to like necessarily pinpoint that, but I feel like if you really lock in and you're really genuine and you just do something that you kind of create these wow moments, and I think that might be the key factor of what's that different wow. You do something for them and they're like, oh wow, you remember the type of drink I like to always have when I get off of the plane, or wow, thank you, you remember that I always like a room that's on a high floor, or oh, I didn't even think that I would need to have my clothes pressed. Thank you for offering that. Yes, I'd like to take advantage of that. Whatever that might be. It's that it is actually, this is what it is. It's offering something that they didn't even know they needed. And I think that is that special moment, because they catches them off guard. They're like, wow, yes, I do need that. That would be great. And so that really is I think the differentiating thing between really 3, 4, or 5-star service.
Yeah, I love it. And I couldn't agree more. And we've had other people on the show that actually will concur exactly with what you said just there. It's about identifying something that someone that they're not expecting, that they're not necessarily wanting at that particular moment, but it's absolutely perfect when they do get it.
It's like you're
And
in my
the interesting
mind.
thing, yeah, that's right. And the interesting thing for me, where was I? I was in Manila on a work trip, and I remember that they had done turn downs of the beds before bed, or I don't know what it's called, but when they set the room up nice, dim the lights and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I had been out for drinks and stuff, and I remember this time around when I came back, there was actually an ice cold glass with with ice in there, just ready for me. And I was like, how did you know? How did you know that I need this right now? How did you know? So that's that's what that you remember that, right? Like, I don't remember everything else, but I remember those particular moments where they do something where they're just thinking of you. And what's interesting as well, from the background that I have, so being, tech and marketing and that sort of thing, the one thing that we do an awful lot now, even with our customers, is start to log the data. So we've got that many customers and that many people that we're dealing with. It's like, well, how do we remember all of this? Because we're only human beings, and a lot of it we're actually chucking into CRM systems and actually manage it so that then we can have these reminders. So if we're dealing with or if we're helping a particular person, we go, all right, that was what happened. Oh, okay, cool. And then you kind of get that reminder, and then you're all right, great. What can I do to enhance their experience? What's your experience with the tech side, and that sort of knowing your guest, especially if you haven't seen them for a year?
Oh, well, I love this question because I know I've always been heavily supportive of more technology, the better, because, that is the world that we are living in. And it's always baffled me how there was this sort of tug of war with the hospitality industry and technology, mainly in that there was this fear that was like, oh, if we implement more technology, that means we will lose employees, or somebody will become obsolete. And I don't think that's the appropriate approach to it at all. I just came back, we were talking right before we hit record, and I just come back from high tech, so hospitality, hospitality tech conference, and it's exciting to see what's out there. And again, if we change our approach to it and not be scared of it, which is just silly to me, but no, it's like, okay, all of these new whether it's new platforms, new services, they're all being designed to streamline the service that we offer and take basically to reduce friction, take off certain things on our plate that maybe we don't necessarily need to be tending to, so that we can have more time to have those authentic and those special moments that are only fostered from that in-person interaction. So it is, if we kind of shift our mindset to it, I think that that's where it becomes really, really exciting. And it's also, it's also a nod to what consumers want. Again, when people are like, does this make sense? Will this fly? Well, I always say, what do you do? How often are you on your phone? What do you use an app for? Because most likely, however you answer that question will also be similar to however your guests would, reply, or how they would feel to it. So I think sometimes we take this cumbersome sort of approach to it where it's actually very, very simple. And it's all about how we use technology to streamline things. And then obviously with AI was like the big thing this year. Everybody's like how they're able to implement it. Again, it's not new. It has been implemented for years, but again, every year there's sort of like a hot topic, and that was the hot topic of this year. Be it through texting services, other services, exactly. So it's pretty exciting. Digital tipping is another big thing as well too. I know that's more. Tipping is obviously very big in the United States, more than other places in the world, but it's definitely part of the hospitality industry. So that's exciting as well. Lots going on.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating, all the changes that we're going to see in tech and how much it's going to impact our industry moving forward and into the future. I like the all the ideas around AI, and also how AI will influence even smaller players. Like the bigger players, it all makes sense. The small players, how do they take advantage of it and use it to their benefit to really understand their customer? There's also another segment, which I don't know if they talked about, which is one global point of reference for people's data. So therefore you can actually understand your guests before they come in, so that they like this particular setup or they're this particular demographic, so then you can service them way better. So it's kind of like all the stuff that a Google or an Apple would have, all that data, but actually having it as an individual operator, where you're not having, like, each operator doesn't have to go and grab the data themselves and figure out their customer. It's like it's a pool that they can tap into. So that's fascinating. That will be coming up as well.
Very fascinating.
Look, just going back for a second, and now I've forgotten my fucking question. I'm so annoyed.
No, it's okay. It's still early for you. I know.
Damn. I had it there.
Because I can tell how hot I am because I'm turning red. It's the middle of summer and I'm like sweating.
Oh, you think? All right. Look, we'll wrap up in 2 seconds.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just looked over at one point. I was like, oh, she's dewy.
It's freezing. It's like 8 degrees.
I know, and it's completely opposite for you right now. I know.
Yeah. Where was I? That's so annoying. I was there. Okay, I'll have to find something.
Do we wrap it up with? Do we just wrap it up with talk about the giveaway of the book or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do all of that as well. Okay. So look, I feel that now that we've gone through that sort of journey of the guest experience, of the making things better for people, hopefully people have picked up tips and they're motivated to get themselves a bit more educated, pick up a book and do some reading, and that way they can start on that journey of improving their guest experience. Okay, so look, now that we've got the tech out of the way, obviously you're all over the world and you're going to different conferences, different events, you're learning an awful lot. You talked about potentially doing another book in the future. Do you have any current plans as to what that's going to look like?
I do. I wasn't prepared to talk about it. No, I did hint. If you guys were
The
paying
cat's out of the
attention, I
bag.
did hint. I did hint at
You
it,
did.
but it is all about sort of having this sort of five-star mindset. So here's to maybe having a little bit of a lull later this year where I can make myself sit down and write it because I'm normally on the road quite a bit. But I am really, really excited to go ahead and kind of get working on that. I actually kind of work backwards. I kind of come up with a title and then be like, that's it. This is how we're gonna
That's for you.
fill it out. So that's just a little bit of a snippet about that. But in the meantime, hopefully people are getting a bit inspired from Hospitality from Within, which was an exciting first entree into the whole world. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, and for those of you that are listening that haven't picked up a copy of the book, I do encourage you to pick up a copy. Of course, you can grab it on Amazon. Are there any other places where you would prefer people to buy the book, or is Amazon the best way to go?
Amazon's going to be the quickest, fastest way for you to get it. But if you are so inclined and you do want a signed copy of the book, you can actually go to my website, which is hospitalityfromwithin.com. That comes directly to me. I will sign it for you and send it to you and mail it out. So keep in mind that sometimes it just might take a little bit longer if I'm not home at the time, because I actually do take in all of those orders and sign them very specifically for everyone and then mail them out. So, but either way,
So good.
Amazon or hospitalityfromwithin.com.
Look, I suggest that everybody gets in touch with you directly and gets a book in that way. That way you make a little bit more money. It's a little bit more thoughtful as you get it hand signed as well. It's a memento that you can have, and when Sarah's out becoming absolutely huge, a megastar, you'll be like, I've got that original book. So you'll have
I knew
that
her
as a
then.
keepsake. Yeah. And on that note, we're also going to do a giveaway. So make sure you jump onto the show notes and in the links. We're going to give away 3 of these wonderful books, and then all the details of that competition will be in there. So thank you very much for that, Sarah.
Of course. So exciting. My whole thing is I want to get it in as many people's hands as possible. So happy to do a giveaway, and hopefully you get excited about it too.
Yeah. And now, folks, Sarah, so just before we close out the show, is there any good way for people to keep in touch with you? Is there anything that we can do for you beyond buying the book to, I guess, help you out or keep in touch?
Oh, well, I would say keep in touch. For those that might have followed my journey for some time, you are aware I'm available and everywhere online. My brand is Ask a Concierge. So that will be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. But if you also want to be connected in a professional capacity, you can connect with me on LinkedIn under my name at Sarah Dandashy. So anyway, I'm here. People buzzing me at all times, so you could be buzzing me too.
And are you doing consulting? Are you going out to see clients to sort of help them with this journey?
Of course,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely. So yes, so I do a lot of consulting and or also filming and marketing. Create a lot of marketing videos for different people as well too, depending on what they are looking to add to their business.
To achieve. Got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And folks, if you are tuned in to the podcast, make sure you give us a review, subscribe, follow, do all those things, leave a comment on some of the platforms you can. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, then make sure you give us a like and a subscribe and leave a comment. Let us know how you're going with your business in terms of the concierge service and what you picked up from this episode. Sarah, once again, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate you and I appreciate the effort that you put in, and it's been great to record this with you.
Thanks so much for having me. So great being here and chatting with you.